Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Cycle 5858. I am Amish Cycle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
Tonight, millions are facing a 1-2 punch of winter weather. New reports that active duty paratroopers could be heading to Minneapolis as ICE protests there continue. And Europe answers back on the president's plan to take over Greenland. Tonight, winter's fury. More than 50 million Americans are dealing with snow, this time as far south as the Florida Panhandle, and icy roads in Georgia. Hundreds of flight delays. All of this followed by bitter cold with freezing temperatures and sub-zero wind chills. Our weather team is tracking it all. Minneapolis on edge. Defense officials tell ABC News up to 1,500 Army paratroopers are on alert for possible deployment to Minnesota. The Minneapolis mayor calls federal agents an occupying force. This follows weeks of ICE arrests and street protests. Business owners tell us some workers are too frightened to show up for work. European leaders hold an emergency meeting on Greenland. What they're saying about President Trump's plan to make it part of the U.S. as he threatens new tariffs on countries that oppose it. The sudden end to a wild police chase through multiple states. A murder suspect is finally taken into custody. Shocking new details from law enforcement in the arrest of actor Kiefer Sutherland. An Uber driver claims he was allegedly punched repeatedly and that Sutherland allegedly tried to choke him. Prince Harry heads back to Britain and back to court. Why he's suing another tabloid publisher. A new record for Venus Williams, now the oldest woman to ever play singles at the Australian Open, 28 years after her debut down under. Triumph and heartbreak in the NFL playoffs as some teams move on and others move out. And it's the game of their lives on the eve of college football's national championship. One couple's 40-year love affair with each other and Indiana football.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for joining us. Europe is preparing a response to President Trump's play for Greenland, and millions of Americans are bracing for a double dose of wintry weather, snow followed by an Arctic blast in the east. Earlier today, that same system was responsible for this rare sight in Florida, snow. That snow is now targeting the I-95 corridor, including New York, Philadelphia, and parts of New England. And as you just watched, football fans brave chilly temperatures and at times heavy snow in the playoff matchup between the New England Patriots and Houston Texans. We'll have more on that game later. One storm stretches from the mid-Atlantic to the northeast and the other across the Midwest, wreaking havoc for those hitting the roads and skies over the long and busy holiday weekend. More than 400 flight cancellations and nearly 4,000 delays. We have team coverage tonight. Our weather team is standing by with the forecast, but ABC's Morgan Norwood leads us off tonight.
Tonight, a winter 1-2 punch putting 50 million Americans on alert as back-to-back storm systems sweep from the Midwest to the East Coast. In upstate New York, the blustering winds hurling blinding snow, making it tough to navigate. Freezing rain pelting this Long Island highway. Snow falling all day, turning to slush on the roads of northern New Jersey. Inches already on the ground in eastern Pennsylvania. Neighborhoods quickly disappearing.
Hello, you're watching Sky News. I'm Nick Qureshi. Here are the headlines for you at 4. At least 21 people are dead following a high-speed train crash in Spain, with 100 more injured. European leaders prepare £80 billion of tariffs in retaliation for Donald Trump's Greenland threat, but say they want to try diplomacy first. While Britain's most senior policeman is calling for dramatic reforms to what he says is an out-of-date system. Also ahead, another Conservative MP, Andrew Rosendale, defects to Reform. He is the third senior Tory to desert the party in a week. Plus, Prince Harry versus the Daily Mail. We look ahead to the high-stakes trial that has already fractured relations with the royal family. Hello, good morning. At least 21 people have been killed and more than 100 injured after a high-speed train derailment in Spain. A train travelling from Malaga to Madrid with 317 people on board derailed and crossed onto the adjacent track, where it was hit by another train. Our correspondent Amelia Harper has the latest.
That's right, a number of people have been killed after two high-speed trains collided and then derailed in southern Spain. Emergency service workers are on the scene in the town of Ademuz, which is in Andalusia. And this is what we know. We know that two high-speed trains have collided after one of them derailed and ended up on the track of an oncoming train. The train that initially derailed was the evening train between Malaga and Madrid. It was carrying over 300 people, and it was the back or the last carriage of this train that derailed. And that back carriage ended up on another track and was then hit by a train coming in the opposite direction from Madrid to Huelva, which is another southern Spanish city. And this then caused the front carriages of this train to also derail. And emergency services at the moment are very much focused on that back carriage of the first train that derailed. We understand that many passengers were able to walk away from the scene, although we saw in pictures there that some were having to try to make their way out of the windows of the train. We do know, talking of the windows, that the windows on the derailed trains, many of them have shattered, which we understand have caused numerous people injuries as well. An emergency...
Politicians return to Canberra for reform and reflection in the wake of the Bondi terror attack.
Bondi represents a moment of choice.
An attack like this hurts all of us.
Another shark incident on a Sydney beach less than 24 hours after a 12-year-old boy was critically injured. Former Labor strategist Tim Picton dies in hospital after an assault in Perth last month. Hundreds of homes lost and at least 19 people dead in fires raging through southern Chile. And Australia's Alex de Minaur close to clinching the second set of his first match at the Australian Open. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Joe O'Brien. Members of Parliament have observed a moment of silence and delivered condolences to the victims of last month's Bondi terror attack. They've returned to Canberra early to debate gun law reform and hate speech laws in response to the December massacre. Political reporter Evelyn Manfield is in Canberra.
Yeah, pretty solemn mood in Parliament today, Joe, as you could imagine. There are about 120 members of the public, including some Jewish leaders, who are watching on as various MPs speak to this condolence motion, and that's still going on in both the House and the Senate at the moment. We've heard from not only the leaders of both parties, but independent MP Allegra Spender as well. Of course, her electorate takes in Bondi, where that terror attack unfolded in December. We did hear a story. I was just listening to Tony Burke, the Home Affairs Minister, tell a story about Ahmed al-Ahmed, who of course we've been hearing about so much in recent weeks as one of the heroes of the Bondi attack. He was talking about it being such a hot night and they decided to go to the beach, and he went to a couple of coffee shops to try and get a cup of coffee, couldn't get into any of them, and then was invited into the Hanukkah event by a rabbi. And of course it was there where he of course was such a hero on that night. So we're hearing those sort of personal stories that MPs have collected, I suppose, over the last few weeks following the Bondi terror attack. Now, one of the really emotional speeches came from Mark.
Sunday night, Europe pushes back against Trump's latest threats to seize Greenland. The potential retaliation as the U.S. president moves forward with more tariffs targeting his plan's opponents.
He's odd. He is out of his mind.
Where does Canada stand in the growing geopolitical dispute? The mysterious disappearance of an Ontario man at a Quebec ski resort.
It's challenging because we don't have closure.
His family's pleas for answers nearly a year after he went missing. Plus, incarceration discrimination, the criticisms against Canada's justice system as greater numbers of Indigenous and Black people are jailed. And inventive solutions, the Saskatchewan man developing gadgets to help improve daily life for people with disabilities.
Global National reporting tonight.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. U.S. President Donald Trump's musings over Greenland have now progressed into a full-blown geopolitical crisis. On Saturday, he vowed to slap tariffs on European countries opposing his plans for the U.S. to take over Greenland. He even threatened to increase them if that doesn't happen by June, escalating his threats to seize the Danish Arctic territory. Today, those countries, including Germany, France, the UK, and Denmark, issued a joint statement. They say they stand in full solidarity with Denmark and the people of Greenland, and that tariff threats undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. Mike Armstrong looks at the united pushback to Trump's ambitions and where Canada stands in it for our top story tonight.
It's good to be wanted, but Greenlanders are finding maybe not like this.
Sad, really sad to the situation we're all living in.
With the American president insisting he has to own the land where they live and ratcheting up tensions with longtime allies, there's a sense of disbelief in the capital.
It's ridiculous.
It's queer. It's odd. He's out of his mind.
I think he has lost his mind.
Now, the disbelief is also spreading through European capitals. EU ambassadors held an emergency meeting Sunday in Brussels in response to Donald Trump's latest threats. Saturday, the president posted on social media promising new tariffs on 8 countries unless they support the, quote, complete and total purchase of Greenland.
Volevo dirvi che la previsione...
Italy's prime minister is calling the tariff threats a mistake and pushing for dialogue, while others are being more blunt. The Danish prime minister says Europe won't be blackmailed over Greenland.
Dit is niet hoe bondgenoten met elkaar.
Let's bring in Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace. She sits on the House Oversight and Armed Services Committees and is now running for governor of South Carolina. How do you see the Minneapolis protests, Congresswoman?
Well, it's all very extreme. And you think about, they're attacking law and order and saying that ICE is extreme. There's nothing extreme about law and order. What you're seeing is the extremities in lawlessness in the streets of Minnesota. And I blame Governor Walz. He is the top leader in the state of Minnesota, leading the state into chaos. And I hope that President Trump will use whatever means necessary to bring calm, to bring law and order to the state of Minnesota and protect the people that live there.
The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry, says that this is, this is sort of about love. I'll let him say it. Listen to this.
This is not just about resistance here in Minneapolis. It's about love. We are showing something far more powerful and consequential here, which is love. We are standing up for one another. You've got neighbors helping neighbors. You've got people uniting and coming together in this beautiful way. And obviously, we've got these threats out there from the federal government that were literally designed to intimidate Minneapolis residents, to intimidate me.
He's talking about neighbors helping neighbors, but I want to put up a screenshot of some of the people that ICE has arrested so far in Minneapolis. People convicted of armed robbery, criminal convictions. There are 12 criminal convictions on Meng Kong Yang, Joshua Forno, who was convicted of third-degree criminal sexual assault, and the list goes on. Those are some of the people that ICE has arrested, but you wouldn't know that from hearing the mayor talk. Your thoughts?
Well, I didn't know that love meant hugging on rapists, murderers, and pedophiles. If that's his definition of love, I don't want any part of it. And I didn't know that love meant throwing bottles at federal agents. Yeah. It's wild the way that the left is trying to describe this narrative, rewrite history, when we all can see it in black and white on TV, the violence that is unfolding, the defense and the excuses for hitting an ICE agent with a vehicle. It's really outrageous. And it's perplexing that this is happening in the United States of America.
If Minnesota would be the $9 billion plus in fraud committed by
This is Asia Now.
It's 11 a.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 8:30 in New Delhi, and 10 o'clock in Jakarta. Good morning. I'm Rani Samtani. At this hour, China's economy expands 5% in 2025, meeting expectations. Brazilian exports surged despite U.S. tariffs, giving a lift to overall growth in the world's second largest economy. Australia's parliament observes a moment of silence as it returns to debate reforms related to last month's Bondi terror attack. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese issues an ultimatum on a proposed hate speech and anti-Semitism bill. And India and Australia among countries invited to join Donald Trump's Gaza Board of Peace initiative. Reports indicate a $1 billion buy-in for a permanent seat, as critics say the Trump administration is trying to build an alternative to the United Nations. China's economy expanded by 5% in 2025, with exports helping to meet the government's target. For more on the latest data out of Beijing, let's go to Olivia Marzuki. Olivia, bring us up to speed on the latest economic data.
Well, Ronnie, it's a bit of a mixed picture. China's economy actually managed to hit its official growth target in 2025, despite trade tensions and structural imbalances with fourth quarter numbers. GDP in the October to December period expanded by 4.5% on year. That's in line with market estimates. But this marks the slow.
Africa News. The news.
M23 rebels in eastern Congo say they will withdraw from the city of Uvira. They called for the deployment of a neutral force to ensure the protection of civilians and strategic infrastructure. Residents received the announcement with caution and concern. We heard that they're going to leave, but we don't know if they've really left or if they will leave, because this isn't the first time they announce it. This will be the second time. What worries us here in Uvira is our security. How are we going to live after the M23 leave? Clashes between Wazalendo fighters and the M23 have been reported around Uvira. Local say the fight. Congolese armed forces. Analysts say the international community must enforce commitments on the ground. The American mediation, which intends the withdrawal of M23 from the city of Uvira, didn't take steps to verify not only the withdrawal of the M23, but also the transitional period. Security issues regarding the city of Uvira were unfortunately not taken into account by the mediation. For now, neither the Congolese government nor the UN stabilization mission in the DRC, MONUSCO, has officially responded to the M23's latest statements. Civilians remain uncertain about the future of the peace process and the guarantee of their immediate safety. Guinea's junta leader, General Mamadi Doumbouya, was sworn in as president on Saturday after an overwhelming win in December's presidential election. Doumbouya took the oath of office at a brand new 55,000-seat stadium on the outskirts of the capital, Conakry. Doumbouya clamped down on political opponents from the election to sign
Politicians return to Canberra for reforms and reflection in the wake of the Bondi terror attack.
Bondi represents a moment of choice.
An attack like this hurts all of us.
Right. The Parliament has observed a moment of silence. Political
Yeah, the movement today, you could imagine there are about 120 members of the public, including some Jewish leaders, who were watching on as various speak to this. The Labour Party's independent MP Allegra spend terror unfold. We did hear a story. I was just listening to the minister's story. Heroes of talking being silent and they weeks following the Bonterra attack. Now, one of the really emotional speeches came from Mark Dreyfus. He was talking about the quieter homes that the families and friends of the 15 victims have returned to, and when I was watching on in the gallery, you could see a few MPs wiping away tears after that. Take a listen.
For every person murdered, there are
what he says is non-existent. Also, Boston dealt with reform his Tory party. Hello, good morning. At least 21 people killed, more than 100 injured after high-speed train with 317 people on board derailed and crossed onto the track. So it's on the last average of then hit by incoming situation, which another southern Spanish city, and this then front is of train to also derail. And emergency services at the moment much first on that bridge. We understand that many passengers were able to walk away from the scene, although we saw in pictures there that some were having to try to make their way out of the windows of the train. We're talking of windows, that the windows on the derailed trains, many of them have shattered, which was
Thank you for watching Ahmed Shakil 5858. I am Ahmed Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.